Good morning, folks. Today is Friday, June 3rd. This is episode 124. Welcome to Simply Cyber's Daily Cyber Threat Brief. I'm your host, Gerald Auger, and over the next 30 minutes, I'll be delivering the top cybersecurity news of the day and providing expert analysis on each of these stories. What it means to you as a practitioner, or if you're looking to break in the industry, we got you covered. Shout out and thanks to this stream's sponsor, the one and only Barricade Cyber Solutions. Cyber criminals have stolen your company's data and derailed your business ops. Barricade Cyber Solutions will help you resolve this ransomware attack and get your business back on track. Make sure to check out Barricade Cyber at their website. Eric Taylor is probably in chat. You can get him on Discord. He's the CEO over there. He was on stream last night on Jack Scott's Outpost Gray stream and made a compelling point. You do not want to be vetting ransomware or incident response teams in the middle of a ransomware event. So be a little proactive, bring some solutions to the boss, and get that, break glass in case of emergency scenario all sorted out in advance. I want to remind you, if you hold professional certifications that require CPEs, each episode of First Things First, there's a harken back to OG stuff. Each episode of Daily Cyber Threat Brief is worth half a CPE. It's 2.5 a week, 10 a month. They stack, so be sure to document literally the easiest and I would argue the most enjoyable way to earn CPEs. Just say hi in chat. Make sure your name is there. If you're using a pseudonym, say your actual name and what's up, and that'll record you in memoriam, and you can point to it from an auditor's perspective and be like, look, I was there every day. Here's my CPEs. Get out off my back. If you're live, love it. Thank you for being here. I see 47 of you on this bright Friday morning, and I know a couple of you were texting me beforehand, letting me know you were going to be here, so you will get your proper shout-outs in a hot minute. If you're watching it on replay, you want to get right to the stories. That clock in the corner, when it gets to 0, we're going to get going, so take the time thing and scrub to the right. But for the rest of us, the next 2 minutes, 40 seconds or so, I'll be welcoming all of you into this morning's cyber threat briefing. Good morning, Lupe. Good morning to Brent and Emerson. Always enjoy you guys being part of the Friday streams. What's up, Jim Lund? Hey, Jordan. Rajat, good to see you. Tiffany, I saw the mods in there this morning. Ron Clark, what's up? Hey, Ryan. Ron, I love it. Wanting to hit the smash that like button before we even get into the streams today. I genuinely appreciate that. Oh yeah. Lupe. Hold on. What can we do? Lupe. Everybody. Lupe Peterman with the job. Nice job, Lupe. Super excited for you. Can't be happier for you. Congratulations. All the best. Lupe, I want to remind you that I have a video on the channel on how to crush your first 90 days. It's one I did with Stefan Semmelroth. If you need, I can point you to it. But I'd encourage you to check it out and take advantage of all those best practices that are captured in that video, so you can just absolutely dominate at that new gig. What's up, Chris Weaver? Tom Pike. What's up, Tom Pike? Been a minute. Tom Pike of Expel. Love it. Josh Mason, Devmeister, good to see you guys. Shane Prevost in the car with the kids. Actually, Shane, I'm curious. Is school out now? It's out here. Shout out to Matt Miras. Good to see you, Matt. I appreciate you taking the GRC course completely outside, kind of your scope, and trying to, get some perspective on the cybers. I love it. What's up, Asha? Good to see you. Is Yula Chua in here? I know the West Coast can be tough on Fridays. James, good to see you. Ron Clark, hey, what's up? Guys, I don't know if you got a chance. Hey, Kimberly, good to see you. Nathan Bolin. Nathan was a member last night on the stream. So, hey, Ms. Julian, Alfredo, good to see you. Guys, we were supposed to have Josh Stroscheid on last night for the network intrusion detection. So you may have been like, that's not my bag. I'm out. Well, he had a personal emergency minutes before we were about to go live. And the one and only Joe Hudson, cybersecurity recruiter extraordinaire, he got the call up. He was able to pinch hit, came in, knocked it out of the park. We did what's current state of the cybersecurity hiring industry, how is return to office looking for cyber. We get into GRC stuff, and then we did resume roasting or reviews. We did probably 4 or 5 resumes. It was an incredibly valuable stream last night. So if you didn't catch it, oh, thank you. Yeah, Mike Jones. Got to represent the Kraken. So if you didn't get a chance to see it, you may want to go check it out. I have to make new thumbnail art for it, but it's the Josh Stroshine Network Intrusion Detection live stream from last night. It was really Joe Hudson just crushing it. All right, guys, it's that time. Oh, we got UAE in the house. Looks like we're going international. See if we can get all those continents. If you're in chat, where are you calling in from? Love to get it. We hit all the major continents the other day, minus Antarctica, which was totally awesome. So love it, love it, love it. Actually, let's get some Finfrock loving it on a Friday.
I'm a crypto evangelist. I love it, love it, love it.
Thank you, Charles. Okay, guys, so I got my coffee. Hopefully you got yours. The French roast is pumping. The agave is hot. If you want to follow along, we are going to cisoseries.com for the headlines. Let me turn off this future pop music, and let's get into it, y'all.
From the CISO series, it's cybersecurity headlines.
It's Friday, June 3rd, 2022. Leaked Conti chats confirm gang's ability to conduct firmware-based attacks. The analysis of Conti Group's chats, which were leaked earlier this year, revealed that the ransomware gang has been working on firmware attack techniques which would give threat actors significant powers since they are hard to detect, are highly destructive, and attackers can use them to achieve long-term strategic goals. Researchers from security firm Eclipsium discovered that the Conti ransomware gang was working on attacks targeting both UEFI/BIOS and the Intel Management Engine, ME, or Intel Converged Security Management Engine, CSME.
Yeah, this is not good, y'all. Okay, so, this isn't good if they get stuff like that going. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's the deal, y'all. Okay, so firmware is kind of like it's like the underlying. I don't want to call it an operating system, but like it's underlying code that is kind of baked into chips, and you can flash it and stuff like that. But it's really supposed to be non-volatile, right? So think of like the operating system on a router, or anything like that. It's firmware, right? So usually when you change firmware, you flash the entire firmware. You don't like kind of incrementally change files on it. Well, modern laptops, at least laptops, I might be wrong a little bit if it's on the chip itself, but modern desktops, laptops, etc., they actually have additional chips burned onto the motherboard that do additional functionality, like the UEFI and the BIOS, right? Which is basic input-output system, right? And this is what kind of boots the main operating system. Typically, and UEFI, I believe, is used for like BitLocker encryption, which loads before the operating system loads. So what is this all to say? Well, normally we didn't really worry about that because it's kind of niche and not well understood. Well, Conti has like infinite money at this point, and they have talent, and they're a full criminal enterprise. And if they're looking, there has been some minor research around attacking firmware, right? I'm almost positive like Malware Inspector wasn't really at the firmware, it was at the chip and how the chip executes. But like there's been some big news stories around firmware attacks, but nothing like kind of crazy. Usually when you attack firmware, you flash it, PHLASHING, flashing, and you basically like brick the device because you burn out the firmware. You don't exploit it, right? So if they get in there, you can't put EDR on UEFI, right? You can't put EDR in there. There's almost like an implicit trust in that firmware that is fine. And you're looking at the operating system that's built on top of it. So if they get in there, that's going to be gnarly business and not good for anything, especially, by the way, as I mentioned, like BitLocker is controlled down in the UEFI. So, they are a ransomware group. So like it would make sense that they could do encryption there. I mean, typically they like you to have your operating system, but it would be interesting if they encrypted your machine and then changed like kind of the BitLocker, enter your PIN message to the ransomware note. Very interesting.
Unisoc chip vulnerability affects millions of Android smartphones. A critical security flaw has been uncovered in Unisoc's smartphone chipset that could be potentially weaponized to disrupt a smartphone's radio communications through a malformed packet. Quote, left unpatched, a hacker or a military unit can leverage such a vulnerability to neutralize communications in a specific location, end quote, according to Israeli cybersecurity company Checkpoint in a report shared with the Hacker News. The vulnerability is in the modem firmware, not in the Android OS itself. Unisoc, a semiconductor company based in Shanghai, is the world's fourth largest mobile processor manufacturer after MediaTek, Qualcomm, and Apple, and it accounts for 10% of all SOC shipments in Q3 2021, according to Counterpoint Research.
Okay, so this is this is interesting. Okay, so first of all, the problem is not with the Android operating system. It's with the I guess there's some driver or something that interacts with the modem hardware on these phones. So it could be in other devices, but I mean, really, there's Android and then there's Apple, and Apple's got their own thing. So I guess you could qualify it as Android only. It's not all Android phones. It's just Android phones that have the Unisoc chip in it, which they said has it says 10% of all SOC shipments. I don't know what SOC is in this case. They didn't really qualify what SOC meant, so maybe chat knows. But essentially what I'm looking at here is there is a reasonable footprint of Unisoc chips out there, but like this is interesting, but really the risk is low from my perspective, right? The impact's very high. If you can basically shut off someone's phone, you're not disabling it from being like on, but it can't communicate out, right, guys? If you've ever driven by, if you've ever driven on the east side of the 495 Beltway around DC, you know that the NSA is there, and there's just like this black cloud of no communication service in that space. So when your phone doesn't work, when you don't have bars, it sucks. If you're in a military operation, you definitely are relying on communication for coordination of the tactical unit and the coordination from headquarters on, strategic movements of if there's multiple operating groups connecting, you need to coordinate, right? So there is high impact in that situation, but just the sheer footprint of this chipset out there and then having to be exploited successfully, it's pretty narrow. I would say that this is interesting. I'm glad people are looking at it, but this is not something that we need to stop the presses and shout to the sky about.
ExpressVPN removes servers in India after refusing to comply with government order. Virtual private network provider ExpressVPN on Thursday announced that it is removing Indian-based VPN servers in response to a new cybersecurity directive issued by the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team. In a statement, the company said its users will still be able to connect to VPN servers that will give them Indian IP addresses and allow them to access the internet as if they were located in India. These virtual India servers will instead be physically located in Singapore and in the UK. This development comes in response to controversial data retention requirements that are set to come into effect on June 27th of this year in India that mandate VPN service providers store subscribers' real names, contact details, and IP addresses assigned to them for at least 5 years.
Okay, so this is one of those stories. It's a real story here, and it can be very polarizing. So ExpressVPN has a huge footprint. Think about it from just the business perspective for a second, guys. India is saying, okay, we have these requirements. If you're going to operate your business in our country, you need to comply with these requirements, which the underpinning requirement is that you collect information on your users and make it available to the government, right? The whole thing behind a VPN is that, there's multiple reasons to use a VPN, but one of them is for kind of anonymity, right? Privacy. So this would violate that privacy. So ExpressVPN is going to be losing market, right? Losing revenue, losing market share on the principles that they are not going to violate their customer base's privacy, right? So somebody at ExpressVPN had to make a business decision around lost revenue. Now, I will say, just because I always am cynical and follow the money, it is possible that the amount of money it would have cost to introduce the mechanisms to comply with the order, right? So storing that data, collecting that data, auditing that data, coordinating with the Indian government to provide that data. That's not free. So that may have cost X, and not complying, like the lost revenue may have cost Y, and maybe the delta wasn't that big, or maybe it even cost more to comply than it did to just pull out. So you can spin it as like, oh, we're all about privacy, we're not going to comply with this, it's overreaching, but maybe it was a business financial decision too. So always keep that in mind. Any business is going to take every opportunity to spin business decisions in a way that is positive for them. Now, the other issue here, the more macro issue for us to discuss, is like how India is introducing multiple laws related to cybersecurity. Remember, they they had the law where you had to like report breaches to the government within 6 hours of detection. That kind of blew up, right? A lot of big tech companies pushed back on that. This is another one. It's not to be taken lightly. India has one of the larger populations in the world, so there's a huge market share here. But interesting.
Clip miner malware actors steal $1.7 million using Clipboard hijacking. This is the amount they have earned so far, and this does not show any signs of abating. Symantec's threat hunter team determined that ClipMiner is likely spread through Trojanized downloads of cracked or pirated software. The malware can redirect cryptocurrency transactions made on the infected computer by replacing cryptocurrency wallet addresses copied to a clipboard with new addresses under the control of the hacker. ClipMiner uses addresses matching the prefix of the targeted original address to disguise the manipulation.
All right. Sorry.
And now let's...
Please grant me a little bit of grace. I was looking at chat and seeing, I was trying to decide if this was spam about this DNSSEC scanning or if this was value to the community. So I kind of missed this one. So just give me 1 second. ClipMiner malware actors steal 1.7 million using Clipboard hijacking. Yeah. I missed the story, but what I would say is you've got to be mindful, guys. Anytime you put something on the clipboard, whether it's your password, like a lot of stuff gets put on the clipboard, and that can easily be copied off by malware, right? So it's spread through cracked and pirated software. I tell you this all the time, y'all. Make sure you're educating not just your end users, but also your friends and loved ones, especially younger people, right? I'm looking at you age, I'd say 14 to 22 about cracked and pirated software. No judgment, right? I was a kid. I downloaded pirated software and or allegedly downloaded pirated software. And it's because you don't have access to credit card, you don't have access to money, you don't want to spend money on these things. You want the new thing, whatever it is. And unfortunately, Trojans, that's how they operate. They appeal to you with something you really want, and then they bake in something that you have no idea and you absolutely don't want. So $1.7 million is no slouch of a day. I am kind of curious how they were making the money. If they were just, again, I'm sorry if I missed it, but I'm curious how you make the money. Like, were they stealing credentials or something? I don't know. Just be mindful, guys, of cracked and pirated software. Educate your end users. And by the way, when you educate end users, don't spin it as you're not allowed to do this. Spin it as, hey, be mindful of downloading from like unknown websites or software that says it's supposed to be a paid software and you're getting it for free. Like these, and then send them this story and be like, you could have your bank account emptied. Are you into that? Like, do you want to pay $30,000 or whatever your bank account has in it for Adobe Premiere? No, just buy Adobe Premiere or use an open source option or something like that. But come on, Carl. Allegedly. All right. So it's time for the midstream advertisement. I'm trying to introduce this really quick, guys. If you don't know, I've been talking about it a little bit. I launched the Instagram channel or whatever earlier this week on Monday. It's Gerald Auger, Simply Cyber. There'll be content pushed out there. You can see these things are adding some value. I'm open to feedback, constructive criticism, But I'm really into you guys going and I guess following is the term that they use on the gram. Follow it. I'll be putting stuff there very regularly, including behind the scenes stuff. And once I figure out how to how to reel. So anyways, give it a follow. I genuinely appreciate it. It helps Simply Cyber reach more people, which is really the goal, to get this information, get this knowledge, get this community in front of more people so that they can, basically be able to take advantage of all the great stuff that Simply Cyber is doing.
Thank today's episode sponsor, Karacurt. Karacurt.com. That's Feroot.
Hey, Saudi Arabia. What's up, Brian? Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate it.
Microsoft blocks Polonium hackers from using OneDrive in attacks. Microsoft says it has blocked a Lebanon-based hacking group it calls Polonium from using the OneDrive cloud storage platform for data exfiltration and command and control while targeting and compromising Israeli organizations. The company also suspended more than 20 malicious OneDrive applications used in Polonium's attacks, notifying the targeted organizations and quarantining the threat actors' tools via security intelligence updates. Though the attacks have mainly targeted Israel's manufacturing, IT, and defense industry sectors since February 2022, Polonium operators have also likely coordinated their hacking attempts with multiple Iran-linked threat actors, according to Microsoft's analysis.
All right. So way to go, Microsoft. Genuinely appreciate this. Guys, OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, all these file sharing services are typically allowed for access into the environment. Like no organization is going to set up a explicit deny firewall rule saying that you cannot access OneDrive or Google Drive, right? Furthermore, it's a web-based access, so it would be going over port 443 to get a little bit more technical. No organization is going to block port 443 ever. Okay, like that's how the web works. So it becomes very difficult when threat actor groups leverage these file sharing services to kind of host their malicious infrastructure. What do? They'll spin up a OneDrive just like you and I have for our business, but instead of storing like a resume or Q4 PowerPoint numbers or whatever, they'll have their malware payloads, right? So you can update them asynchronously. And then when they have malware that detonates on an endpoint, and when it detonates, it knows to reach up to this OneDrive location in this folder and pull whatever malware it is told to pull down, right? So that's kind of how it manages it. And then also they said that they're using it for C2. Again, it's the same thing, right? It reaches up and looks in a file or in a folder, or looks in a file and reads commands, maybe based on the file name, based on the first string in the file, whatever it is, which gives it direction on how to operate. Go dormant, uninstall yourself, spread laterally. Here's new IP addresses to update, right? This is how modern malware works. It is orchestrated from command and control, or C2 infrastructure. So way to go, Microsoft. This is one of the advantages of going with the big players like Microsoft. They have so much telemetry that they can make informed decisions on blocking stuff, right? Like this is cool. I appreciate it. It's almost like a public service, honestly.
Chinese Luoyu hackers deploy cyber espionage malware via app updates. The hacking group is infecting victims with WinDealer information stealer malware deployed by switching legitimate app updates with malicious payloads in man-on-the-side attacks. To do that, the threat actors actively monitor their targets' network traffic for app update requests linked to popular Asian apps such as QQ, WeChat, and WangWang, and replacing them with WinDealer installers. Once deployed, WinDealer helps attackers search for and siphon large amounts of data from compromised Windows systems, install backdoors to maintain persistence, manipulate files, scan for other devices on the network, and run arbitrary commands.
All right. So this is interesting. Let me look at this flow really quickly. All right. So this is interesting. So they're targeting Chinese endpoints, essentially. Now they're saying cyber espionage malware. Espionage is when you're stealing information trying not to be detected. They're infecting what looks like Windows workstations. So if you have, QQ, WeChat, WangWang installed on your Windows machines, you could fall victim to this. One thing I want to point out, it's very clever, right? It's very clever. So the way that it works is they don't infect or replace like the WhatsApp app on your workstation. What they do is when it reaches out for updates, so you're looking at your system thinking, yes, I'm expecting the WhatsApp app to update, require reboot. Things are going to change a little bit because this is standard patching process. Excuse me. So that's very clever. And they intercept that and they push their malicious app update onto your device. Okay, here's the thing. I may be mistaken, right? And I'm totally open to that. But for them, the threat actors, to monitor network traffic, which is what they said, and intercept an app update, you'd have to be either on the endpoint already or to watch the network traffic coming out of the NIC itself, right, on the endpoint, or you'd have to be on the victim organization's network, whether it's the home network or it is the company network, or if you set up something at like Starbucks and you're hoping for like a drive-by hit. Long story short, you have to be in between, the endpoint and the update server to monitor their network traffic and intercept it. They said man on the side, which I haven't heard that before, but it's like man in the middle. Long story short, there already has to be compromise occurring. This isn't like some crazy like remote code execution, non-authentication kind of attack. So, it's an interesting way to push additional malware, but I feel like you may have already compromised the endpoint at that point. So maybe that's why it's espionage, because you're trying to be super subtle about how you're pushing new stuff onto the endpoint. Anyways, it's interesting. It's not a new attack technique. It's actually, this is not uncommon, right? It's a good way to hide those updated pushes because you're expecting those apps to be updated and changing and requiring things. So cyber espionage is going to cyber espionage. Am I right?
U.S. cybersecurity officials issue notice on Karacurt extortion group. A trio of U.S. government agencies on Wednesday issued an advisory with technical details related to the Karacurt data extortion gang, warning that the group has created significant challenges for defense and mitigation. Karacurt, Karakurt, also known as the Karacurt team or Karacurt layer, doesn't destroy or encrypt victim files. Instead, the group steals data and threatens to publish it with known ransom demands ranging between $25,000 and $13 million in Bitcoin, according to the notice published jointly by the FBI, CISA, the Treasury Department, and the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. According to multiple independent cybersecurity researchers, Karacurt is part of the Conti ransomware group. And now you're
okay. That's it's kind of weird, right? Okay, so the Karacurt group, all they do is exfil data and sell it. So they're kind of like one half of the double extortion scam, except they don't do the encryption. Now, my initial thoughts when I was hearing the story is like, okay, like it must be easier to do data exfil than to successfully deploy ransomware, or they're seeing a depreciation on return on investment for spending the time and effort to actually encrypt all the stuff and then deal with the negotiations and ultimately get paid or not get paid. So maybe that's why they're doing data exfil. The fact that they're part of the Conti ransomware gang is confusing to me because Conti is doing extortion through encryption and data exfil. So I don't see how they're part of it. Also interesting, I wonder, like part of my thought process here is I wonder if they're more interested in data exfil and extorting it that way and not ransomware because of the amount of heat being turned up on ransomware right now. Like, is it too hot for threat actors to be dealing with ransomware, even though ransomware pays out like massively? It makes me wonder if that's the deal. But their ransom demands for data exfil ranges from 25,000 to 13 million. That's a significant range, I might add. But usually, I'll say this last bit in case you didn't know, usually the more advanced ransomware threat actors, or in this case, I guess data exfil threat actors, will do a little bit of research on their victim. Oftentimes, they don't even know who they got. So they'll compromise someone, not know who they are. They'll dig in a little bit. They'll analyze it. maybe they get into emails and stuff, and they'll figure out like what's the annual revenue essentially for the victim organization, and then they'll make the ransom demand or extortion demand commensurate with maybe 5 to 7% of what the annual revenue of the business is, right? Simply because if they attacked whatever, like who's in chat right now, Joel Belton has if Joel Belton has like a mom and pop ice cream store, right, that makes, it's a good lifestyle business. It makes like $1.2 million a year, just gross. And then, with profit, whatever, a couple 100,000, like asking for $13 million is laughable. That like, you're just going to move on. So it needs to be a ransom or extortion fee that is worth the time of the threat actor, but not ridiculous for the victim, right? So that's the deal. Good job, Joel, with that ice cream shop. All right, so that's Karacurt. Karacurt is Conti extortion gang. Yeah, basically. Yeah, so all right. That's a lot of scoops of ice cream, I'll say.
Y2Q update. Researchers claim quantum device performs 9,000-year calculation in microseconds. Researchers in Canada have conducted a quantum computing experiment that they claim completes a calculation in just a fraction of a second that would take a conventional computer 9,000 years. Jonathan Lavoie, an experimental physicist at quantum computing company Xanadu, along with his colleagues, reported the results from a device designed to sample an unknown probability distribution of light passing through a network of optical fibers. Their findings were published in the magazine Nature, whose editors pointed out that the experiment was important because programmable photonic processors were closer to the form that a quantum commercial device might take than other previous proof-of-principle quantum computing experiments. Remember?
All right, so there is a commercial race, if you will, towards quantum computing, right? We are not anywhere near going down to Best Buy and grabbing a Raspberry Quantum Pi, right? We're a million miles from that. But this research comes out. Now, this group claims that they did this massive calculation in a fraction of a second, which is cool. I do want to point out that IBM, according to this, contests the legitimacy of this research. So it's mired in controversy, whatever. Like this to me is like interesting in that quantum computing, there's multiple people working on it. There's going to be a lot of money in it, obviously. So keep an eye on it. This is coming from a cybersecurity perspective. It is going to kind of mix things up a little bit, but guys, even when they develop a quantum computer, it's not going to be mainstream ready for a very long time. Like I would guess that like I will be out of industry, if not in the ground, by the time quantum computers become a thing of any mainstream adoption, right? Like labs will get it first, big think tanks might get it, governments obviously will get it, but we're not anywhere near like endpoints having quantum computers. Would you even need it, right? It would have to be super affordable and have some practical application. And you'd have to have like Windows Quantum OS to run on it. And then all the apps would have to be written because modern computer architecture is binary, like zeros and ones, right? Boolean. And quantum is trinary to invent a word. It's 3 bits, right? It's 0, 1, and 0, 1 at the same time. So this just continues to be like a hot area of research. I'm sure you're going to see a lot of speculation, controversy, and bullcrap research coming out, and legitimate research as well. So we'll see how it goes. All right, guys, that is doing it for Friday. Not super spicy today. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Just a reminder, later today, I will be doing the squad. I think that was there yesterday too, William Helsel, but I love hitting that wow button. Join us today at 4 o'clock for What's on Your Radar. I will be myself, Eric Taylor, and one other senior cybersecurity professional will be talking about a topic that has caught our eye. Spoiler alert, mine is this company that's claiming that they can essentially ensure that you cannot get ransomware. I find that claim to be foolhardy, and I want to investigate it and share with you guys what I have discovered regarding that particular piece of tech. I don't know what Eric's doing. I don't know who our third person is, but we'll see. We're having a good time. And I don't know, like the pilot window for radar is coming to a close. So we'll be determining whether or not what's on your radar becomes a mainstay of Simply Cyber, or if perhaps we shake things up and introduce a different show format in its place. We'll see. That resume review last night was pretty well. People got excited about it. So maybe we'll do something like that. Have a great weekend, Jim, Joel, Cybersec, Kevin, Jessica Probst, Lupe. Really enjoy the weekend. Celebrate. Hey, Don. Everybody, thanks so much for your time. Jump over on the Discord server to keep the conversation going. And yeah, Kimberly, mixing it up. All right, we'll be good. Thanks, everybody. It's Friday, June 3rd, episode 124, I believe, of the show. And be good, everyone. Cheers.